What is up, YouTube? This is Jeff477, and today I'm giving you guys the deck profiles that I used in my Duels with 5D's era decks. We're starting things off with my Blackwing deck, which features 2 copies of Simoon, the Poison Wind, 3 copies of Chris the Cracker Dawn, 3 Bora the Spear, 1 Zephyros the Elite, 2 copies of Oster, the South Wind, 1 Decay, the Ill Wind, 1 Raid Raptor, Singing Lineage, 2 copies of Gale the Whirlwind, 1 copy of Gladius, the Midnight Sun, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Blizzard, the Far North, 2 copies of Gus, the Back Blast, 2 copies of Armanetta the Dust, I think that's how you say it, 1 copy of Vayu, the Emblem of Honor, and 2 copies of Orochi, the Squall. Then for spells, I have 3 Allure of Darkness, 1 Rank Up Magic Soul Shade Force, 1 Foolish, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Call by the Grave, 3 copies of Black Whirlwind, we have 2 Infinite Impermanents, and 1 Solemn Judgment. For the extra deck, I have 1 Assault Blackwing Onimaru, the Divine Thunder, 1 copy of Black Winged Full Armor Master, 1 Borrelord Savage Dragon, 1 Assault Blackwing Rai Kini, the Rain Shower, 1 copy of Chidori, the Rain Sprinkling, 1 Blackwing Tamer Obsidian Hawk Joe, and 1 Blackwing Nothing, the Starlight. For Xyz, I have Cyber Dragon Infinity, 1 Ray Raptor Force Strix. For Lynx, I have Boral Sword Dragon, 1 Simor, the Bird of Sovereignty, 1 Crystron Helki Fibrex, 2 copies of Raid Raptor Wise Strix, and 1 copy of Wee Witch's Apprentice. So yeah, that's my Blackwing deck. And let's move on to the Fortunately deck. And here is my Fortunately deck. I won 1 copy of Fortunately Dark, 3 Fortunately Water, 1 Fortunately Wind, 1 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, 1 Fortunately Fire, 3 copies of Fortune Fairy Haikari, and 3 copies of Fortunely Light, followed by Fortune Lady Pass, which I run 3 of. We have 1 copy of 1 for 1, 3 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge, which, I'm going to be honest here, kind of surprised me that this card can trigger the effect of Fortunately Light. If I'm going to be honest. I did not know that this card could do that. 3 copies of Fortunately Calling, 2 copies of Fortune's Future, 1 Terraforming, 1 Monster Reborn, 2 Spellbook of Secrets, 1 Call by the Grave, 3 copies of Fortune Vision, 2 copies of 1-1, 1 Secret Village of the Spellcasters, 3 copies of Future Visions, and 2 copies of Fortune Lady Rewind. Then for the extra deck, I have 1 copy of Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, 1 Borrelord Savage Dragon, 1 Clearwing Synchro Dragon, 1 Black Rose Dragon, F.A. Dawn Dragster, 2 copies of Fortune Lady Every, 1 copy of Stardust Charge Warrior. Then we have 1 Boral Sword Dragon, Nightmare Unicorn, Celine, Queen of the Master Magicians, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Crystron Helki Fibrex, 1 copy of Puzzle Mino, the Drop and Deleter. I think that's how you say that name. I can't be sure. And then finally one Linkuriboh. So yeah, that's it for fortunately, this next one should be the Infertility deck. Okay, here is my Infertility deck. I run one copy of Infertility General, one copy of Infertility Archfiend, one Danger Mothman, two copies of Sturgeon Street Patrol, one Infertility Parichin. I don't know what that word is. I'm sorry. Fiendish Rhino Warrior, two copies of Infertility Wildcat, one Danger, Koko. Again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names. One Infertility Conjurer, two copies of Tour Guide of the Underworld, one Archfiend Nurse, one Psychic Wielder, one Danger Jackalope, two copies of Infertility Necromancer, two copies of Infertility Sage, one Infertility Avenger, two copies of Infertility Mage, and one Infertility Pawn. Then we have one Allure Darkness, one copy of 1-for-1, Card Destruction, Foolish Burial, Monster Reborn, two copies of Infertility Paranoia, one copy of Contract with the Void, one Forbidden Droplet, one Forbidden Apocalypse, no, not Forbidden, I mean Void Apocalypse. I can read. One copy of Infertility Launcher, one Infertility Suppression, one Infertility Break, and two copies of Infertility Barrier. For my extra deck, I have one Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, one Void Ogre Dragon, one Borreload Savage Dragon, Hunter Eyes Dragon, F.A. Dawn Dragster, Infertility Doom Archfiend. Then we have number 60, Dagrease the Timeless. Then we have Leviathan Sea Dragon, two copies of Saryuja Skuldred. Then we have Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, one Nightmare Phoenix, one Christian Helgi Firebrax, one Cherubini Ibon Angel of the Burning Abyss, and Solomon Grey Almirage. I think that's how you say it. So yeah, that's it for my Infertility deck. I think the deck's pretty good, but I didn't win that many duels with this deck, to be honest. Maybe I'm just a bad Infertility player. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section of my channel page. Anyway, let's get on to the next double file. Okay, here's the double file for my Reptilian deck. And it's time for some name butchering. Let's start things off with Reptilian Fasky. I run two copies of her. One Evil Dragon Anatana. Two copies of Reptilian Sela. I think that's how you say it. I could be wrong. Two copies of Mystic Tomato. Three copies of Kage Tokage. Two copies of Reptilian Gardener. One Danger. Tsachinoko. One Reptilian Viper. Three copies of Reptilian Viper, my bad. Three copies of Reptilian Lemia, and two copies of Reptilian Naga. Then we have two Allure Darkness, one copy of 1-for-1, three copies of Reptilian Spawn, one Viper's Rebirth, one Monster Reborn, one Reptilian's Poison, one Called by the Grave. Then we have two copies of Infinite Impermanence, 2 copies of Wall of Disruption, 3 copies of Crackdown, 1 Goes in Match, and 1 Solemn Judgment. For the extra deck, I have 1 Borrowed Savage Dragon, 2 copies of Attilian Hydra, 1 Old Entity Hestor. Then we have 1 King of the Feral Imps, 1 number 41 Babushka the Heavily Tired Tapir. Then we have the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin, 1 Borrowed Sword Dragon, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Alien Shock Soldier and Frame, 1 Christian Hellgate Firebrax, 2 copies of Reptilian Echidna. I think that's how you say it. I'm trying to remember back from my days of watching the Hercules series to remember how to pronounce this. And finally, we have 1 Linkuriboh. So yeah, that's it for my Reptilian deck. Let's move on to the Resonator deck. Okay, here is my Resonator deck, aka the Jack Atlas deck. We have 3 copies of Wandering King Wild Wind, 1 Red Sprinter, 3 copies of Red Familiar, 2 copies of Witch of the Black Forest, 1 Performance Hat Trigger, 1 Creation Resonator, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 copies of Crimson Resonator, 3 copies of Red Resonator, 1 Chain Resonator, and finally 3 copies of Syncron Resonator to round out the monsters. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 3 copies of Resonator Call, 1 Pot of Desires, 1 Dark Ruler No More, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 copy of One Time Passcode. Then we have 2 copies of Resonator Command, and 1 Call by the Grave. For traps, I have 1 Red Rain, 2 copies of Vivid Impermanence, 1 copy of King's Constance, I think that's how you say it, 1 Synchro Call, and 1 Solemn Judgment. Now for my extra deck, which has no links whatsoever, because thanks to Master Rule 5, we don't need them anymore. Thank God. 1 copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, the new Red Supernova Dragon. You're going to see him again later in the video. 1 Red Nova Dragon, 1 Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend, 2 copies of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, 2 copies of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, 1 Beals of the Diabolic Dragons, 2 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, 1 Ancient Pixie Dragon, which I had summoned during one of my duels with this deck. And finally, 3 copies of Red Rising Dragon. So that's it for the Resonators. Next up should be the Rose Dragon deck. Okay, here is my Rose Dragon as it stands right now at the time of recording this. I know recently new support was availed for this deck, but I think as of right now, hang on, let me check. Yeah, that support has not been implemented here on EndNote Pro. But when it does, it's probably going to change this deck a lot. But in the meantime, here's the deck as is. So I run 1 copy of World Carrot Weight Champion, 3 copies of White Rose Dragon, 2 Permaplant Freeze Scorpio, I think that's how you say it, 3 copies of Rose Princess, 1 Red Rose Dragon, no, 3 copies of Red Rose Dragon, 1 Permaplant Darling Tania Cobra, 2 copies of Twilight Rose Knight, 1 Rose Girl, 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Caligo Claw Crow, I think that's how you say it, and 1 copy of Spore. Then we have 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Raigeki, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Pot of Desires, 1 Foolish, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 World Legacy Succession, 1 Call by the Grave, 1 Frozen Rose, and 1 Black Garden. I did run the other field spell that Rose Princess searched, the White Rose Cloister, but I wasn't really able to use it, pull it off, so I just stayed with Black Garden. 2 copies of Vivid Impermanence and 1 Solid Judgment. For the extra, I have 1 Thousand Eyes Restrict, 1 Borreload Savage Dragon, 1 Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, 1 Black Rose Dragon, F.A. Dawn Dragster, 1 Coral Dragon, 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, 1 High Speed Roy Chambara, and 1 Garden Rose Maiden. Then we have 1 Borrowed Sword Dragon, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Aurora Sephiria, Jasmine, I think that's how you say it. 1 Krishan Helke Firex, 1 Crossroads Dragon, and finally Link Karibo. So yeah, that's it for this deck profile as of right now. I may do a video or just maybe post a link to the updated version of this deck when the new support finally gets entered into this program. With all that said, let's move on to the final deck profile, which should be Syncrons. Okay, here is the final deck profile that I'm going to showcase in this video, which is the Syncron deck. Let's start things off with 1 copy of Quidrock Synchron, 1 Road Synchron, 3 copies of Junk Synchron, 1 Junk Forward, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 1 Quillbolt Hedgehog, 3 copies of Double Warrior. Then we have 2 copies of Satellite Synchron, 3 copies of Junk Converter, 1 Fleur Synchron, 2 copies of Synchron Carrier, 1 Boost Warrior, 1 Cyber Synchron, 1 Dot Scraper, and 1 Unknown Synchron. Then we have 1 copy of 1 for 1, 1 Perform Bell Popper Up. I used to run multiple copies, but I rarely got to pull this card up, so I just cut it down to 1. Then we have 1 Raigeki, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Foolish Barrel, I should say, 1 Monster Reborn, 3 copies of Tuning, 1 Call by the Grave, 1 Magnet Reverse, 1 Lydian Fossil, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, and 1 Solemn Judgment. Yeah, I know I'm running traps in this. I like to have at least some form of protection in my deck. Now let's move on to the extra, where we have 1 Cosmic Blazer Dragon, 1 Red Supernova Dragon, 1 Satellite Warrior, 1 Ravenous Croco Dragon Artheus. I think that's how you say it, I could be wrong. 1 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, 1 Psyframe Lord of Omega, 1 Jump Berserker, basically to use with in conjunction with Quick Draw Synchron here. I had actually contemplated also using Junk Archer for the deck because of its banishing ability, but either one is fine if you want to go this route. Then we have one Stardust Charge Warrior, one TG Hybrid Librarian, 2 copies of Junk Speeder, which is your main enabler to get out Red Supernova Dragon, as you saw in the video, my dual video, I should say. 1 Axel Synchron, 1 Marcel Metal Marcher. I know some people are probably sick and tired of this card, basically because of that whole link cross thing, which now doesn't exist anymore because it got banned. 1 Formula Synchron, and finally 1 Crystotron Hellkey Fibrex to round things up. So yeah, that's all the Adept profiles. Now, a little confession I want to make. I was toying with making a spider deck for both this video and the dual video, but no matter what I did, no matter how much tinkering I did with that deck, I could not get it to work. So I bet you said, screw it, forget about spiders. So yeah, these are all my deck profiles. You can check these decks out on the whitejoeprodeck.com, which I'll have a link in the description. You could these deck profiles out, comment on them, as well as download them to tinker with yourself. And yeah, the next video I plan on doing will be based on the Zexal era decks. And just to give you guys a quick heads up there. And also, like this video, subscribe to my channel. And yeah, see you guys later. This is Jeff 4077 signing out.